What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to MLB Swing for the Fences here on June 4th. 10-game baseball slate to talk about. And I think it's a good one. Joined today on Wednesday by Statsational. We're going to talk stacks, pitching, tournament leverage, and of course, most importantly, perhaps the boom report by the creator himself, Stats. How you doing, man, on this Wednesday afternoon?
I am doing well, man. Yeah, we've got some big winners recently, so that's been it's been a nice little run, and yeah, so hopefully those of you who are subscribers have been benefiting. I know we had a lot of winners in the MLB Discord. We've been seeing a lot of those posts, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, 100%. I've been in Las Vegas the last few days, so not a lot of DFS for me, but happy to be back. And man, I was digging into the slate earlier, Stats, and it's a good one to come back to. I think there's a lot of good plays. I think a lot of different ways to play it, and I think we're going to see a lot of scoring tonight, kind of across the league. A lot of teams in good home run spots, all that stuff. So we'll, of course, incorporate the boom sheet as we go, and we are also running a promotion for people that are not members but have seen all the winners coming up on RPS, on X or whatever. And so, yeah, we're going to give people, a week free trial, I believe, with the tool, which of course includes the boom report itself. And you can use promo code named after, of course, the legend JBC, who's been a monster utilizing such tools. JBC 100K win. Is that it, Stats? I think
that's it. Yeah, JBC 100K win.
Yeah.
And that's going to get you, I think it's a free week trial. So yeah, check it out. It's for non-members. If you are a member of a single sport and you want to check out a different sport, you could also get that free week trial. So it'll work for you as well.
Yeah, 100% worth it to take a shot. And, just utilizing all the tools, the boom report, everything else, I think will genuinely help everybody improve as a DFS player, which is obviously the goal of what we're trying to do here over at Run Pure Sports. With that, Stats, let's get into these games. There's a lot to talk about. We're going to start out in New York for the Guardians and the Yankees. Two righties here. Clark Schmidt going for the Yankees. Luis Ortiz for the Guardians. And like most places, pretty warm in New York. Going to be 75, 80 degrees. Going to play as a hitting park today, a hitting-friendly park. And I think we can see offense in this one. These aren't terrible pitchers, but I think advantage bats here, especially with the short porch in right field. And I really like the lefties kind of on both sides. And, speaking of that boom report, we got a few hitters on either side of this game showing up pretty high on that list. Love to see that, as that was kind of my initial analysis too. But what do you see here, Stats, Guardians, and Yankees?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. It's kind of an offensive, looks like an offensive game to me. And yeah, on this slate in general, I think it's kind of a slate for you because we could pick some cheap pitching here today. So
oh yeah.
So I think that's the way we're going to probably want to go. And if you're going cheap pitching, of course, you always kind of look to these Yankee stacks and the Yankee bats, expensive bats that are going to fit tonight. I love the Yankee bats more so than Cleveland bats you're going to see on the boom report. Yankees being one of the top options on the entire slate. Almost all of these bats are in play. As usual, LeMahieu's just always the bat that kind of gets left out. But if you're playing a five-man stack, of course, don't mind putting him in the mix with the other guys because you do save a little bit there at 3,400. So I like more so. I really like the Yankee side of this game. From the pitching side, you've got Schmidt going against Cleveland, and then on the Cleveland side, Ortiz. Not touching Ortiz at all. I do have some interest in Clark Schmidt here at the 8,200. The strikeout K per inning projection, not quite as good as some of these other pitchers, even some of these pitchers who are way cheaper. So that's going to limit how much Clark I have. But I've got him right kind of in the middle of this slate, ninth best pitcher on the slate. So I think he's worth rostering a bit, but not one of my favorite options.
Yeah, I'm with you on Schmidt. I think he came up sixth for me overall. So I probably won't play enough lineups to ultimately get to playing Clark Schmidt on any of mine. But yeah, I would maybe keep him in the mix if for people playing a bunch of lineups. I do think he does have some pretty good strikeout upside here, is what I would say with Clark Schmidt. A dangerous spot for him, for sure, but I think the ownership will be relatively low. And yeah, I agree with you completely on being way more interested in the Yankees side. Specifically, though, and certainly the Booms agree with this. Jose Ramirez looks like an awesome play. If you look at his kind of power profile, batted ball profile from the left side, first of all his home runs basically have come from the left side this year. And all of them are like, right to right field, which is just a fantastic place to hit. At Yankee Stadium, he gets a righty in Clark Schmidt who gives up power to lefties. It all kind of, looks good. So if we're talking like a strict one-off where I don't really love the rest of the team, but I love one player, I think Jose Ramirez would be pretty high on my list for someone to sneak in there.
Yeah, and you're going to get him at a relatively low ownership as well. So that's why he shows up pretty high on the as a tournament edge play. So I do agree with you there. He's a nice one-off piece.
Yeah, 100%. Good game to kick us off there between the Yankees and the Guardians. We'll keep it moving to Philadelphia and Toronto here. Jose Barrios coming off a strong start, going to take on the Phillies. Barrios, I would almost kind of put him in the Clark Schmidt bucket where I think he's a reasonable play, but not something I'm super excited to get to, obviously, against a dangerous lineup in the Phillies. I do think, of course, you could play those Phillies bats against Barrios. Again, specifically, the lefties look pretty good. And then Mick Abel will make his second big league start. Got to turn through the rotation back on the 18th of May and pitched awesome in that game. It was against the Pirates, but 6 shutout innings, 9 strikeouts, no walks, 84 pitches, 32.5 DraftKings points for Mick Abel. And I do think he's an okay pitcher stats, but I don't really see evidence outside of that one game, from his minor league track record, from his prospect profile, from the stuff that he throws. I don't see evidence that he should be priced, frankly, anywhere near 9K in any matchup. And this is not really likely a high strikeout matchup for him against the Blue Jays, even if he was that good. So Abel's off the table for me. Barrios, I'm not going to get there. Honestly, I'm probably not going to end up with a ton from this game. I just think there are a lot of better spots to go to, but Phillies lefty bats would probably be, at the top if I did have to do something. Then I don't think stacking against Abel is that crazy. It's his second big league start, and he wasn't really expected to be some phenomenal prospect. So maybe you could go that direction. But overall stats, I'm kind of low on this game.
Yeah, I might be a little higher on the bats here than you are, but just starting with Abel. I mean, I was shocked at the 9K price tag when I looked at it. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I mean, he's got a prop of 4.5, and that is almost 2-1, minus 200 almost to the under. I mean, that's just not a 9K pitcher on any slate. So I think you gotta pass there. Barrios, I actually was at the game he pitched in Tampa a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And I was sitting with the players, the families and friends and family of the players, and his family was right by me. But we were talking about how sore his arm's been all year, but he looked pretty good. Like, he had a rocky first inning in that game, and they wound up losing the game. He gave up 2 hits. They were both home runs, and that was it. So he's kind of dealing with something. His velocity is down for sure, and I think the strikeouts have been down as a result of it. So I really don't like either one of these pitchers. I think the Philly bats, though, are in play for me, and in a big way. The typical Philly bats, they've really been one of the top options, I think, this entire series against Toronto. They're going to be a strong option for me here as well today. So I like Schwarber and Harper and Turner and Castellanos and Real Muto. Those are the guys popping really high on the boom sheet. Stott as well is going to be up there. So I really like these bats for Philly. I'm going to stay away from the Toronto bats, even though I don't necessarily like Abel. I think the Toronto bats I'm going to pass on, but I'm probably going to be a little heavier Philly than you are from the sounds of it.
Yeah. And again, it's not that I really dislike Philly. There's just some spots that I like quite a bit better. I mean, the Yankees bats, I think, are just kind of, one for one. I like all those guys better than pretty much their counterpart on the Phillies. So it's just more that, there's a lot of slates where I'd be pretty high on Philadelphia here, but just one where I think I'm going to go to a different, in a little bit of a different direction. And then, Toronto. Go ahead,
I'm,
Seth.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but look at the ownership that at least we're projecting on these Philly bats. It's real low.
Yeah.
In Saber right now, which is really boosting it for me too.
Yeah, anytime you can get guys like Harper and Schwarber, and frankly, a pretty good matchup at low ownership, it's pretty good roll of the dice. So that makes sense to me. And then Addison Barger up to the 3-hole today. Maybe he's been hitting there the last couple of days, but he's been awesome. There's some articles out there about him, the big changes he's made. He's still cheap at 3,100 and absolutely blasting the ball. Yeah, 4 home runs in the last 4 games for Barger. I do think he's going to get, perhaps overinflated on the ownership just because obviously the big run of recent results. But I do think the breakout is real for Barger. I continue to think he'll keep hitting well. I was kind of on that before even those 4 home runs, frankly. You could see it in the advanced metrics for a guy like Barger. So he was one guy that I did want to point out from the Blue Jays side of it. But yeah, that's Phillies, Toronto. Next game up is another one, I think, very, very interesting one here. Braves and Diamondbacks, Chris Sale, Merrill Kelly. Sale's been, of course, fantastic this season as he was last season. Always gives up, a little bit of power, but man, the strikeouts are usually there for Chris Sale. I couldn't play last night's stats. I don't know where you ended up falling on this, but I was very surprised to see Spencer Strider as owned as he was on a big slate, especially given that he did not look good. So again, not that I was able to take advantage of it in any way, but that did surprise me. And I'm kind of surprised to see Chris Sale garnering 30 or 40% ownership, highest ownership on the slate. This Diamondbacks team, man, you don't want to mess with this team. I know Sale's been awesome. I've played a ton of Sale this year, but this is not a team I want to pick on. I mean, a lot of elite bats, a deep lineup. There are no easy outs really here for Chris Sale, and low strikeout rates mostly across the board too. So not that he can't go off, but I'm personally out on Chris Sale tonight. I don't want to pay that price. I think salary can be better spent. Curious what you're going to end up doing with Chris Sale. And then on the other side, I actually like Merrill Kelly a little bit, maybe even more than Sale. He's been awesome, and I think has a way easier matchup than Sale himself does. So this is a game where maybe I'm getting away from what the field is going to do a little bit personally. But what about you, Stats? Where'd you end up doing with Sale and, of course, the rest of this D-backs and Braves game?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Strider. I got to give JBC the credit on this one. He faded Strider last night, so that was a good move on his part. Yeah, I have Sale rated as the top pitcher tonight, and a lot of that my model is very heavy on the strikeout and the K per inning. So he does project for the best in that department here tonight. So the 9,800, that's the thing that's going to limit him for me, because I think there's so many. I like these expensive bats today, and I think we could kind of throw in some of these cheaper pitchers that's going to keep Sale down. But I think at 9,800. I'm not looking in Saber. I could bring it up now where he's at. Yeah, 35%. I think that's probably about right. For Sale, that's probably where he's going to be. I could totally get behind getting a little bit under that number. When I have him, I have him as the number 1 pitcher here tonight. It's all real tight between these top 3. And we'll go over a couple of the other ones that I have up there as we get on with the show. But yeah, I'll probably have Sale a bit more than you do. Kelly, I'm going to be using as well. So I've got him as my 6th best option, a little bit cheaper here. I don't think the strikeout potential maybe is as good as it is with Sale, but we are getting a discount. You look at the betting market, Sale 6.5 on the prop market, slightly juiced to the over with Kelly, juiced to the under with a 5.5 strikeout prop. Both expected to go fairly deep in the game, 18.5 outs for Sale, and 17.5 is the prop for Kelly on his on the out prop. So we'll see. Yeah, I kind of like. I think I'm going to wind up liking Sale a little bit more than you. I don't like the Arizona bats in this game. I do agree. It's not an easy matchup. Arizona has a pretty good lineup here. They can put a hurt on just about any pitcher, I think. But they're going to be not fair. I will not have all that much Arizona as far as bats, and I'm going to be playing these. I'm going to be playing the Brave bats against Kelly. So Riley, Acuna, Olsen, Albies, those guys are my keys. You throw Ozuna in there. Those are going to be the top 5 bats in that lineup there tonight. I don't necessarily like the bottom part of that lineup all that much. So that will limit the amount of 5-man stacks I have. But I'm going to try to get the top Atlanta bats in some stacks. I do like it perhaps more than you.
Yeah, it sounds like a little bit of different approaches to this game. I will say, I mean, part of the reason, of course, I don't like Sale is because to me, I'm looking at these individual matchups. Of course, if you look at the overall strikeout projection, all that stuff, I get why it looks good for Sale, but when you look at, I mean, Ketel Marte on fire, absolutely just crushes lefties. Like, I think he's a fantastic one-off to put into your lineup if you're not on Chris Sale. And if Sale doesn't get there, because he is probably going to get his strikeouts, right? Chris Sale most likely, kind of almost no matter how the game goes. But what I think can happen is he gets hit hard a little bit throughout this game. Maybe gives up a home run or 2, 3 or 4 runs. And so I look at some of these D-backs bats, Ketel Marte. I mean, Eugenio Suarez has huge power, has killed lefties throughout his career. Gabby Moreno, I really like how he's swinging it. He is. I wasn't happy to see him dead last at the bottom of the Boom Report, but I still like him.
Yeah, he tends to be down at the bottom.
Yeah, made me laugh, but I'm like, I agree with 95% of it. So it's always funny when there's like one player that we just completely disagree on. But yeah, I do. Again, not going crazy with the D-backs at all. Probably just like one per team, but I do think if Sale doesn't end up getting there, one or two of these D-backs probably does damage. Even Randall Grichuk, he's 2,800. He's in the 5-hole, crushes lefties. So I think there are different ways you can play this game. Obviously, Sale is the way most people are looking at it, and I totally get it. But I do think if you're not on that, if you're on my side a little bit, some of those D-backs right-handed power could pay off for tournaments. All right, let's get you. Go ahead.
Let me toss something in there. What you were mentioning with the one-offs or with
well, I was gonna go ahead.
No, well, you were mentioning like guys who may be low on the Boom Report, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
First of all, it's a tool, so I mean, use it. You want to use it, as the Bible. Go ahead and use it as the Bible, or use it as a guide, or whatever you will. But how I typically do it, it's not like I totally wipe out all the players that may not necessarily fare well on the report, but I'm only using them in stacks, right? So they become more valuable. We mentioned the game earlier. I was mentioning the Atlanta, where I kind of like these bats at the top. But if I'm playing 5-mans, I'm going to be mixing in some of the bats that aren't necessarily going to come out high on the Boom Report, an Allen or
Sure.
Verdugo or something like that. Because we have to someone's got to score the runs, right? If what happens, and we think, if what we're hoping happens, and you're playing an Atlanta stack, and you're hoping the Atlanta bats and the big bats go off, maybe the Verdugos and Allens aren't the ones hitting the home runs, but they're getting a base hit, scoring a run, and contributing in that way. So when you're using the Boom Report, you're going to find where we've got the best options for stacking. But when you're playing 150, you're going to be mixing in some of these lower boom players as well. So there's a lot of ways. I've been getting a million messages on how everyone's using it, which is great. That's the beauty of kind of being in a Discord like that, where we're sharing the information. We're all kind of using the same information. Everyone uses it differently. We kind of learn from each other. You're the product of your environment, which is why I love being a part of the Discord with RPS. So just wanted to throw that out there, that not just because someone shows up low on the report doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to punt them. I'm not using them in one-offs, but they're going to make a few of my 5-man stacks for sure.
Yeah, that all makes sense. While we're on the subject, I'll ask you a question, maybe a suggestion. So obviously you had the Boom Report for a while. I mentioned a few times on our shows that I like to look at that Boom Report and then factor in the ownership percentage of the players to get kind of an additional score, which you then added to the sheet, which is that tournament edge, right? So it obviously takes in the Boom Report, which is looking at obviously the chances of putting up a big kind of slate breaking score. Obviously, it makes sense to me at least that the lower owned those players are, the more powerful of plays they become when you're trying to win a GPP. I think there's one more column you can add, Stats, and that would be the leverage aspect of doing damage against a high-owned pitcher, right? Like I think that a home run from Ketel Marte against the chalk pitcher does have more expected value in getting to the top of a tournament than one, from a pitcher that nobody at all has, right? So because you take all the sale teams down with you when he does something. So even beyond the low ownership for a guy like Ketel Marte, I think doing it against the chalky pitcher, and just depending on the number, right, the percentage of the slate that has him, it would do even more and more power, if that makes sense to you. I think it makes sense.
It makes absolutely total sense. I love the idea. Now I've got to figure out kind of how to do it, but I love it.
Some more work to your slate, but hit me up. I got some ideas.
It's just what I need, because we're actually. So I just started working on some NFL stuff. I'd worked on some best ball stuff that we got coming out for you guys, and I'm going to have a real similar sheet, hopefully, to this Boom Report for the NFL. So those of you playing MLB, it's going to be like a really easy move to head over to NFL and start making your lineups using a similar type of a tool. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, but I've got a flight tomorrow, so I like to think about this stuff on my flight, and I will at 7 a.m. I'll break the laptop out and start working on this.
Yeah, as our friend Uncle T says, Stats isn't busy. He can do it. Any ideas you got at all, send on over to Stats. He'll be on top of it. Just don't suggest in the Discord that he's coring some crappy Rockies pitcher. If you do, he'll show up to
that happened. I don't know if it was a week or so ago, and I'm like, look, this is about as casual as I could be at 5 o'clock or 5:30 my time. Usually I'm deep into these spreadsheets, and I'll be doing that as soon as we get off the show. But someone posted it. I see the little notification. I'm like, did I do that? I'm like, no, I didn't. Did I? No. And I'm like, no. They were just on the sheet as one of the value pitchers, but I did not core that value pitcher. Yeah, I got a little excited. I'm like, oh shit, I think I just fucked up. But no, I did not.
Got to set the record straight. Totally get it. Texas and the Tampa Bay Rays up next. This is another one of the very, very strong hitting environments on the slate in Tampa. Hot, humid, wind blowing out, kind of same old story in your neck of the woods. Stats. And we have, pitchers here who I think are very targetable. Shane Baz going for the Rays. Bizarre season for him. He's been all over the place, but a lot of really bad games and a lot of home runs given up, and seems to be getting worse as the year progresses. Now he's got to pitch back in this tough environment. The Rangers certainly have a disappointing offense overall this year, but maybe getting a little bit better. Obviously, Corey Seager's back in the lineup. Langford's been good. Josh Jung's starting to hit for some power. They've got Evan Carter in the lineup, who can in theory do some damage. So I like this Rangers team for sure. Against Shane Baz, I think they're a high upside option. And then I like the Rays side even better against Kumar Rocker. Rocker, a rookie this year. What do you make, like 5 or 6 starts? Yeah, 5 starts, I think, for Rocker before he went on the injured list. Those starts did not go well. Rocker's sitting with an ERA over 8, 5 starts into the season. Been hit really hard, 30 hits allowed in just 20 innings. And if you just look at his arsenal of pitches, he does not have the pitches to deal with left-handed bats, which the Rays have some nice left-handed power, and that's what you want in this park anyway. Josh Lowe, Brandon Lau, Aranda, all look really good to me. Of course, you can include, Yandy Diaz, Caminero in there. Even Cameron Meisner, I think, looks good in the 7 hole if he's in the lineup. So give me the offenses in this game, Stats. I can't get to any of these pitchers. What you do end up doing with Texas and Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I will say I think I do think Rocker is at least playable in your 150 builds at 6,700. Baz as well. This is a weird game for me. This is like a game I would play just about every side of this game, but not a lot.
Sure.
So it's like I want to dabble with a little bit of the pitching, a little bit of these stacks, but I'm not going crazy on any one side of it. I would agree with you. I think the best side of this game overall is the Texas Bats. I think that's probably the strongest side. I think showing up with like a really big tournament edge and does on occasion is Langford. Langford's one of those guys who is one of my favorite one-off plays. I think the price of 4,800 is pretty good here tonight. And you've got Seager also popping on the boom sheet as well. So I think those guys in particular look really good. The Tampa side, there's a lot of like good, not great bats on the at least as far as the Boom Report is concerned. So the Tampa bats probably on the whole rate out higher, probably better 5-man stacks, and I think pieces on the Texas side look better, but they're just look a lot better than the Tampa side. So I could see either one of these teams breaking out. Like you said, the weather's it's going to be this. I mean, it's just all summer long. It's going to be hot, humid. That right field, the ball just carries real well. The game I went to, actually, in the middle of the game, the wind just started blowing in hard from right field, and Baz was the pitcher there against Barrios, and that kind of saved them. It was a really well pitched game, but fly balls that started going out to right center field were just absolutely dead. I mean, I forget who hit one that started getting into his home run trot, and it didn't even make it the warning track. So, yeah, we'll see here tonight if that wind is blowing out. I mean, right field, you could get massive games here in Tampa. It is raining. As far as right before we got on the show, it is raining. That's going to be another theme in Tampa, but I think we're going to be okay on this game. It's just the way it's going to be all summer long. But yeah, Texas bats for me, Langford, Seager up at the top. And I would sprinkle in, I mean, I'm going to play 5-man Texas stacks, but I'm going to sprinkle in some Tampa 5-man stacks as well, even though they don't rate as high. It's kind of, they're bunched up closer to the top with not a lot of weak bats on the Tampa side.
Yeah. Rocker, so he didn't throw in any of his 5 starts. They didn't let him get to 80 pitches. He was below 80 in all 5. He made 2 rehab starts. In his first one, he threw 35 pitches. In his second one, back on the 29th, he threw 53. So I think you're looking at about 60 pitches for Rocker here, which to me, I think it's a big ask to get there for Kumar Rocker in that amount of pitches. So
yeah, now that I'm looking at it, yeah, you might be right. I'm gonna have to bump him down a little bit. And the prop is only 3.5, which probably lends itself to that. But they're looking, and I got to look at it now because I kind of ran this right before. So Rock 3.5. Yeah, we're not really projecting all that many innings from him either. So yeah, I think his upside is definitely capped. So maybe I'm going to take him out of the pool. All right, I'm glad I talked to you.
Yeah, I definitely would. This was like, when someone said you cored the Rockies, but I'm like, Kumar Rocker, slow down there, stats. You don't want to go down.
No, I'm out. That's a no. As I look at it now, I'm gonna get him out. Yeah, it's not happening. So, which is going to give me a little bit more Tampa bats.
There you go. And yeah, I really it's fastball, sinker, slider for Rocker. So he doesn't have anything that moves the other way. So it's all coming in to the left-handed bats, which, I think they're going to square up some fastballs in this game in that right field. If the wind cooperates, obviously, looks really, really good for the Tampa bats to me. Let's keep it moving to Detroit and the Chicago White Sox. This game, pitching-wise, kind of all over the place, but looks like it's going to be Sean Gibson Long making his MLB debut here for the Tigers. Has pitched pretty well in the minor leagues, but again, hasn't really worked up to a big pitch count, and I'm not really buying it with Gibson Long in terms of really the ability, but especially the duration. He didn't get up much beyond past what Rocker has gone in his last couple starts. So he was one that I really wanted to play stats, and the more I dug, the more I said I think I probably have to be out on Gibson Long, even with the matchup against the White Sox. Obviously, they're bad enough where you could conceivably get there in 3, 4, maybe 5 innings, but I think that's kind of all you can expect from Gibson Long. On the other side, the White Sox going with the lefty Jared Schuster, very mediocre arm, not going to go deep, and then it'll be, looks like Mike Vassell is planned as the long man here. He's actually pitched pretty well, but again, I think you're looking at 40 or 50 pitches for him. To me, not in play. I'm out on these pitchers, and I guess the Tigers bats look okay against Schuster. I mean, it's a bullpen game for the White Sox, who have one of the worst bullpens in baseball. So yeah, it would make sense to go to the Tigers here. Not the best hitting weather, going to be cooler here where it's kind of hot around the country for most places. So I guess a long-winded way of saying I'm kind of mostly out on this game stats. What'd you end up doing here? Kind of kind of a weird game between the Tigers and the White Sox.
Yeah, it is. It's an unusual game. We got a couple of pitchers they probably don't want to roster. I agree with you. The Gibson Long, I'm with you. I would have loved to roster him if we could get some more innings out of him, because we're looking at like a K per inning type of pitcher. So I like that, but I don't know if we're going to get enough. And the prop market, again, he was 3.5. Now he is heavily juiced to the over 3.5, and it's only 6K. So who knows? Maybe I'll talk myself into it by the time 7 o'clock.
I mostly wanted to present the evidence that I don't just blindly play these cheap pitchers. I do dig in and like even when I want one, I need one. I knew I needed one on this slate, but yeah, Gibson Long just couldn't make the cut.
No, I will never accuse you of that. I know you. I know.
I was talking to Big T. Is what I was saying.
Yeah, that might be. Yeah, Big T might think that, but no, I know you put a little work into it. But yeah, it's an unusual game. I mean, I don't love the hit. I mean, the White Sox, I don't know the last time I wanted to roster White Sox, but it's not this matchup. Yeah, I think you've got maybe secondary stacks with Detroit. That's about it. And obviously the pitching situation here with the White Sox, we've got looks like just an opener, right? And then we're going a long man. So not going to touch that either. Yeah, it's unusual with it, against such a bad bullpen. I don't know. Maybe we're going to get a little bit more ownership on Detroit than maybe what we're projecting out there. Everything's pretty much single digits on these Detroit bats, like 4, 5, 6% over on Sabre. I don't know if they're going to be more than that. It's a decent total. I mean, the total here, they got one of the best team totals on the slate, right? I'll close to 5 team total.
They're probably pretty good plays at 4, 5, 6%, to be honest. I mean, anytime you can get an ownership that low, and I mean, would you be shocked if the Tigers put up 10 runs against the White Sox pitching staff? Of course not, right? And you're getting them at a low number. If you can say both of those things are true, then yeah, I do think you can go with the Tigers. They're not that expensive either. So you kind of have all three things going for them there. So maybe rethinking it a little bit on the Tigers. Do we have a lineup for them yet? I don't think that we do.
The Tiger lineup is out.
They have Torres and Torkelson are in there, I assume.
Torkelson is who I do like quite a bit. That would be my number one option on one-offs.
Yeah.
Who else did you say there? I missed the.
Yeah, Torkelson and Torres, I think.
Torres is in there. Yep.
Yeah, and then maybe Dylan Dingler down there at catcher. Got big power out of the catcher spot in a good matchup. I think that's a pretty good way to go at the catcher spot if you want to get a little bit different. But that's
Carpenter. Carpenter.
Yep. I guess because we don't expect Schuster to get even through a second time in the order. So
right.
Yeah, maybe both of us talking ourselves a little bit on to some more Tigers bats. Next game on the slate would have been Kansas City and St. Louis, but it has been postponed, I believe. So we will move on from that one to the West Coast. Let's get to the second half of this slate. Mariners and Orioles. And here stats, we have a cheap pitcher that I think we can play in Mr. Cade Povich, and maybe the other side too. Curious your thoughts on Emerson Hancock, but it's Povich that I'm really looking at for the Orioles here. Not that it's a perfect spot, right? I mean, the Mariners certainly do have some power, but Povich is very, very cheap, pitching a little bit better as of late, at least on the strikeouts, which is kind of the problem that he was having. He just wasn't missing any bats, but it does look like he's turned a corner at least a little bit in that regard. Gets to pitch in, the best or maybe second best pitching environment of the slate. And most places I've looked, he does project right up there, maybe at the top in terms of point per dollar rankings at pitcher, which I think on this slate is a good metric to look at because there are big bats to spend up on. And Sale, he's pricey, but he doesn't have a great matchup. I don't think anyone would argue that the Diamondbacks are some cakewalk matchup. So I do think the point per dollar part of it makes a lot of sense to weight heavily when making lineups. And Povich, to me, is at or near the top of that list. Hancock, I just don't think is any good. But, I mean, he is at home. It is a kind of a floundering Orioles offense to some degree. They do let him throw close to 90 pitches most times out. I guess maybe you could make the case for Hancock, but for me, Povich is the one I want, and probably not going to go to a whole lot of bats here. It would be the Orioles side, but I just think there are a lot of better stacks to attack. So mostly Povich here for me. Stats, I guess it was what I'm saying. What about you? What are you doing? Orioles and Mariners.
Yeah, I'll agree with you with Povich. It's going to be one of my more popular pitchers. I think 5,700 is just way too cheap for this ballpark with the strikeout potential. We've got a prop of 5.5, pretty much evenly juiced on Povich. I mean, that's like, that's 8K range. These 5.5 props.
That's about as good as you're gonna get at a $5,700 price.
I don't know if I've seen better.
Yeah.
In a park, like I said, we don't expect a lot of runs to be scored. I think you've got to. I would almost make him my number one pitcher. He doesn't rank number one on my model, but he'll wind up being the number one most used pitcher for me, roster pitcher on the slate. I think you almost want to flip him with Sale here, and what on the projections that we have, at least for ownership on Saber at this time, which is like 23% on Povich with whatever it was on Sale, 34% or whatever it was there. I think you can get up to that number on Povich and just start hammering some of these more expensive bats with him, or play. There's a couple of more expensive pitchers here, and I like Sale. Getting maybe pairing him up with some of the maybe a more expensive pitching option. But yeah, I think Povich is definitely the best dollar per point tonight, and maybe my most popular pitcher on the entire slate.
Yeah, with you there. I wouldn't actually be shocked, Stats, if Povich ended up being the most popular pitcher or close to it, just with the price tag. He just seems like such an obvious play. Which to bring up the boom report again, we both like Povich. Camporeale, though, is a big standout on that report, especially like we said when it comes to the tournament edge, because so many people are going to play Povich. That if you're playing Povich, you're not going to play a $5,500 catcher, or at least I don't think you should be. And so you get a player like him who has elite upside, right? We've got him listed at 23% home run chance probability for Camporeale, and yeah, not many people are going to play him. So I believe he has the biggest or the highest tournament edge score.
Probably does. Yeah, probably does.
Yep. So just bringing it up again, because that's one of the ways we use it. There are a lot of different ways you can go about using it, but makes sense.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of like with JBC the other night. We had Ohtani was the one-off in that lineup. They were playing the Mets, forgetting who was pitching for the Mets, but they were it was low-owned Dodgers that night with Ohtani barely owned, right? So those are the situations we love, and that you're going to see that on the Boom Report. Raleigh's going to be a good example of that because he's not going to be owned. A lot of people are going to be taking, in that ballpark too. A lot of people don't like taking bats in that park. I know, you're one of them, and I am now as well. But when you look at that tournament edge, those are the guys you really like on that one-off, especially like this is a perfect game for a one-off play as opposed to stacking. We don't really expect this game to go crazy, but we get a home run out of Raleigh, not out of the question at just virtually no ownership. That's where I like to use that tournament edge column that you're going to see on the Boom Report, especially for my one-offs. Like, what one-off can I throw in here? I'm playing a chalky stack. Maybe I'm playing some chalky pitching. Where can I get different? Well, how about one of the better bats in the game for home runs who nobody's going to have? So that's a nice thing to look at on the on that report as well.
Yeah. In addition, if you did include the leverage score against a popular pitcher, Raleigh would get another little bump, even higher than the tournament score. So I do think he is a very, very strong option to use. Julio Rodriguez or Rosarena also ending up high. So, it is mostly with Povich, I think, a price play, but he does have the strikeout upside against this team to get there. But that Seattle stack could absolutely do it. Povich is, frankly, not that great of a pitcher. Wouldn't be shocked to see Seattle do some damage against him. Could certainly go that way as well, but we'll both be hoping for the other outcome where Povich pitches well tonight. San Francisco and San Diego up next. This one in San Francisco, which of course is very much a pitcher-friendly environment. We have the most expensive pitcher on the slate here, Nick Pivetta. who is my preferred option over Sale if you are spending up a pitching. Again, I don't know if I'll be necessarily doing that, but if I definitely won't be doing it on both spots. And if I did have to choose between the two, it would be Pivetta over Sale for me. I can see the argument for Sale's upside being a little bit higher than Pivetta's perhaps, but to me, Pivetta is the way safer play in this park, and Sale is pitching against the D-backs in Atlanta. So I like Pivetta. Kyle Harrison, 8,300, a decent pitcher. I can't see using him against the Padres, even in the pitcher-friendly San Francisco. But I don't really see myself going to many Padres here either against him in this park on this slate. So frankly, mostly Pivetta here, if anything, for me, stats. What about you? San Diego and San Francisco.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll make it easy. The bat's pretty much dead for me. Gonna pass on bats. Harrison as well. Don't have much interest there. Pivetta, I think, is the interesting one. Like you said, 10K. He's the highest priced pitcher on the slate. Does have strikeout potential. Of course, 6.5 strikeouts. That is juiced to the under, and 17.5 is his out prop. I do like him a bit more than Sale, but I agree with you. I think if it was like a cash game option, I think Pivetta is the much better cash game play. I think his floor is definitely higher. I think we're looking at Sale with the higher ceiling. So that's why I'm giving Sale the nod on my in my GPP 150 builds. But Pivetta for sure is a pretty solid option here on a slate with, we just don't have that much dominant pitching. So I do like that. It's just Pivetta for me, and I don't know if I'm going to have much at all, if any, bats from either side.
Yeah, I'm not playing hitters in this one. Definitely would be the Padres side if I was going to, but I think they're pretty far down there, and the ones you want are expensive. So it's just hard to get to the Padres on this particular slate. Minnesota and just the Athletics, unaffiliated, but playing in Sacramento. Athletics in going to be a warm night in Sacramento and some pretty strong winds projected to be blowing out in this one. I'm seeing between 10 and 15 mile per hour winds straight out to center field. This will play as a home run friendly, hitter friendly park tonight. Jeffrey Springs going for the A's has not had a good year. Has been hit pretty hard, of course, by right-handed bats, and also perhaps overlooked stats. 14 steals allowed for Jeffrey Springs. It's been ugly. 14 for 14 are base runners against him. And the Twins against Springs are my favorite stack of the night. No lineup yet, but I assume it'll be at the top. Buxton, Jeffers, France, Correa, Lewis, who I like all of those guys. It's actually Royce Lewis, who's probably going to be the most popular, who I like the least, has really not done much at all this year or kind of the back half of last year. I think his, kind of big name values hit a lot of kind of famous clutch grand slams types of things. I think it's maybe has people inflating what he can do at the moment with the bat. I know obviously Boom Report is a lot based on, the odds, right, of hitting a home run or a stolen base. And I kind of think those are maybe a little inflated for a player like Royce Lewis. So I'm sure he'll go yard tonight, but he's the one that I might leave off. Buxton, though, stats, I think is the number one overall play on the slate. I'll take him straight up over even the likes of the legends Ohtani and Judge on this particular slate. That top four for the Twins is going to be probably, frankly, in my core. And again, I anticipate Buxton, Jeffers, France, Correa against also a very, very tired, worn out A's bullpen. And of course, you get all 9 innings of guaranteed at bats for the Twins. So I think they make sense on a lot of levels. I've seen a couple different things, but I do think it Springs. But the funny part is all 3 projected pitchers I've seen that could be going for the A's are crappy lefties. So you're probably okay almost regardless of what they do. Zebby Matthews, though, I think might be the even more interesting play in this game. He is my favorite pitcher on the slate once you factor in what I think his upside is and his price and his ownership. Looks like maybe around 10% or so for Zebby, who I really, really believe in. I know the surface results so far in 3 starts do not look great, but I'd look more at the 16-2 strikeout to walk ratio over the last 2 starts. The stuff looks phenomenal. Going to sit 97, 98. You can throw his fastball by hitters, which I think is important when you're looking at a park like this where, you give up fly balls and you could be in trouble. I think he's good enough to just, kind of mow through this A's team if he's on his game. So definitely riskier stats playing in this park. Could give up 2 or 3 home runs. It could go south for Zebby. There's no question about it. But I also think there's legitimate double-digit strikeout upside, which you cannot say for very many pitchers on this slate, especially a lower-priced one like Zebby. So my favorite pitcher here, Zebby Matthews, my favorite stack, the Twins, and they've burned me a few times over the years. So maybe a painful night, but that's what we're rolling with. In DC land, stats, what do you see? Twins and A's.
Yeah, I mean, Zebby for me is definitely the interesting part of this game, and I agree. I wasn't sure which way you were going to go there because the tough pitching environment. We do have wind going out 10 miles per hour tonight, dead center, but I think that price tag 7,700 and the potential that you have for the strikeouts here. You've got he's got an arm that's gonna miss bats, and he doesn't throw a lot of balls either, right? So if I'm gonna play someone in this environment, it's kind of like the Colorado. It's like I'll play pitchers at usually it's going to be a lower price, which we're getting here. Can they get a lot of strikeouts? Can they miss bats? And do they put guys on base? And if they don't, I'm going to like them a lot more. So I think Matthews is a pretty strong play for me tonight, just for those factors. I think yes, the potential's there. Can he give up a couple of bombs? Absolutely, but I think the potential for him giving up the big inning subsides a little bit when we look at he's not going to hurt himself by putting 1, 2, 3 guys on base before he gives up that long ball. If he gives up a couple of home runs here in 5 innings but gets us 5 or 6 Ks, it's not the end of the world if they're 2 solo home runs tonight and maybe gets us a win. So I do like Zebby quite a bit. I wasn't sure which way you were going to come in on there, but we're in agreement. And the Minnesota bats, I mean, this is going to be the best. They're going to be the best bats on the slate. They're going to be the highest owned as well. I think you mentioned Buxton was your favorite play, your favorite option. He is the highest rated on the Boom Report, and he's the highest tournament edge. Now these may change as we get different projections. I'll have this updated as soon as we get out of here. 20 minutes or so, we'll have it updated. But yeah, even with the high ownership because of his potential and what we're projecting and what his upside potential is, he still winds up being, along with a couple of other these Twins like Bader and a few of the other guys are pretty high. Correa, they're all pretty high, even though they're going to get high ownership. So what that's telling me is, listen, they're still a pretty strong play. They're probably going to be under-owned for how good and how strong they are tonight. So I think you do want to get heavy on these Minnesota stacks.
Yeah, just an awesome spot for the Twins. There's just no question about it. And Buxton, one of those guys where I don't often do this, but a lock button hitter for me. I just play this guy in every lineup. I think he's the best play on the whole slate, and move on to the next one if it doesn't work out. But awesome spot for him, and I'm pretty excited to watch Zebby tonight. I think he can do some damage, and at his price and ownership, could be one of those plays that leads someone to a big score. Hopefully, that'll be on the RPS side of it for people riding the Zebby Matthews train. Last game of the slate, the Mets and the Dodgers. Tony Glanslin going for the Dodgers here. Hasn't looked super great in his last 3 starts, one of which did come against the Mets. Been a rough go for sure for Gonsolin recently. I don't really think he's in play here against the Mets. I'd be more likely to play the Mets bat certainly than Gonsolin, and then certainly not playing Griffin Canning at 7,900 against the Dodgers. As always, or I guess as usual, Ohtani, one of the top plays of the slate. Another reason why, saving a little bit of salary if you can at pitcher makes a lot of sense to me. Dodgers in general look good here, but of course, Ohtani, the king of the one-off. And I also, again, we're talking about additions perhaps to something like the Boom Report. I even think hitting leadoff is a little bit of an edge just because you start the game all by yourself, right? Like you hit the leadoff bomb and maybe the lineup falters behind you, you get a chance to do it again. So just little things like that you can look for an additional edge. Obviously, Tani doesn't need that to be a good play, but I do favor one-offs that hit leadoff. I think it helps even a little bit more. But stats, I'm guessing you're not high on these pitchers. So the question is, of course, what are you doing with the bats in this one?
Yeah, definitely not high on the pitchers. Going to pass on both of these guys. I think we've got some other options here in this price range that we can go with that I like a whole lot more. So I'm going to pass on the pitching. I like what you said about Ohtani. I mentioned it earlier with JBC. We had that one nice Monday with the one-off on Ohtani. He's always going to be a great one-off play. And what you're saying with the leadoff batter, I think you could, kind of extend. It's great when you could get that guy that in the leadoff spot, a guy like Ohtani for sure.
I guess what I'm trying to say, he's like less correlated with his teammates because
exactly.
Yeah.
But I think you want, and that's where I was kind of going with it. When you're looking at these one-off plays, it's much harder to a lot of times I think we make our, we get our pitchers. Everyone's does it a different way, but they got to kind of have the pitchers that they like. I'm talking about single, kind of single.
I know where you're going with this. Go ahead.
And then you have a stack that you like, and then it's kind of the last option is, okay, what can I fit and what position do I have open? And I think that's how a lot of people fit it in. Yep. And it's like, oh, look, there's a $2,300 batter in the outfield that I could fit into what I just created with my other 9 spots in the lineup. And I think you're literally punting most of the time when you do that. So if you can, I love getting these more expensive bats. We talked about in our prior shows, when you could get a bat that, I know Ohtani, I mean, like, it's Ohtani, but he's going to get you home runs. He's going to get you steals. He's going to do a lot all by himself. He doesn't need the rest of the lineup to score points. A lot of times when you put those punt plays in, they're relying on a 10-run game. Ohtani could be a 3-run game and get you 20 points, right? So, he could be all 3 of those runs. So yes, I don't know if I'm stating the obvious or not, but when I'm looking for a one-off play, especially with a single build, single entry, look to some of these, and look to the Boom Report, the tournament edge. Again, Ohtani's going to show up really high. He's going to be, he's going to be always owned. It's just that you could get him on some nights a little lower owned than others. And for a guy of his talent, of course, we want to take advantage of those nights. But I think on the whole, I mean, the bats look really, really strong here. I think the Mets side of this game actually looks a little bit better on the bat side because we do get some, maybe some cheaper bats. We'll see. I don't think we have either of those lineups yet, but throwing a Nimmo in the middle of the lineup in there, if you're going to play some of those stacks, it's not the greatest hitter's ballpark, but I actually like the Mets stacks a little bit here. If you want to get sneaky, I think they'll be they won't be particularly high owned. We're looking at Nimmo. We've got him at 15% here on Sabre, so a little higher than I thought. Right in the middle of the lineup there, but Soto over 10%. I still think they are low enough owned, and the Dodgers as well. I think that you can easily play both sides of this game. 5-man stacks, secondary stacks. You can just game stack this whole game if you really want to. I don't know if you can. If we could fit it in, I haven't tried it yet, but I just like the offenses in this game. Yeah,
100%. No question about it. And that is, I guess, all 9 games we did have the postponement. We'll do pitching and favorite stacks and a home run call here. But for the people that missed it, you see us talking a lot about the Boom Report. If you want access to that yourself, 1 week free trial we've got going on over at Run Pure Sports. Even members who don't have access to the baseball can get this. And that promo code is JBC100K win. To get that free week of access, you can check out the Boom Report and everything else we have to offer for the baseball product over at Run Pure Sports. And a lot of ways to use it, but if you've got a few brain cells in your head, I think you can figure out a good way to use it for you, and hopefully get yourself better results in the MLB DFS streets. All right, Stats, let's do favorite pitchers, pitching combination. Give me your favorite pitching combination on this MLB slate.
Yeah, I mean, I got to put Zebby in there because he's probably going to be the pitcher I need the most here tonight. That number 2, that combo is going to be tough. I don't want to go too chalky, so I'm going to go with I'll go. Crap! I am going to go chalky. I'm going to go with Sale. I'll just do it because I know you might go the other way there. So I'll go with Zebby and Sale as my two. They're the two highest on my model, and probably going to be my two highest owned.
Got me excited over there with the Zebby Matthews love with me. But Zebby, the clear number one for me. I think he's, all things considered, the best GPP play on this slate. Probably bumped his ownership a little bit on this this show stats, but that's all right. We'll roll with Mr. Matthews, and then I'll go, I guess, the complete opposite direction of Sale. I know you like him too. Cade Povich, pitcher for Baltimore here. Obviously, just a different build, cheaper pitcher. Lets you get in more of the big bats. Certainly understand the Chris Sale call for the upside at pitcher there. Favorite stack on the slate stats? If you had to narrow it down to one, what are you rolling with?
Yeah, I mean, I think Minnesota's a pretty obvious one. So I hate to take that one from you, but I'm going to go with that.
That is also my answer. I'll give an additional one. And yeah, that Zebby Minnesota stack makes a lot of sense too, because I do like pairing up a stack with the pitcher, get a little correlation on the win points. And then also, I think more importantly, a lot of damage can come in the late innings when it's a 7 or 8, 9-run game. But yeah, an additional stack beyond the Twins. We'll go with the Yankees. That lefty power against Luis Ortiz, I think, makes a ton of sense. All right, stats, narrow it down to one. Who's going yard tonight for the people?
I'm going with someone you probably agree with then. I was going to go with Ben Rice tonight.
Ooh, I love Ben Rice. Great call. And for me, it will be Mr. Byron Buxton. That'll do it for this show. Fun stuff with stats. Get on over to RPS. We'll be in the Discord answering questions, getting core plays up, finishing up lineups. I'll be back with Mr. JT Hayes, same time, same place tomorrow. Good luck to everybody in your lineups. Appreciate the support. And until next time, these stats, I'm DC. We're out of here.